What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So heading into the holidays, there's obviously going to be a mad scramble for all the different game systems on store shelves, but especially the PlayStation 5 that's been hard to find for the most part since launch, and many people expect scalpers to have an absolute field day when we start rolling into the holiday season. But it looks like we may have some good news when it comes to the PlayStation 5 stock situation. We'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a new system that was announced yesterday that initially people looked at as a game system, but turns out it might be for something a bit different. And we're also going to be talking about Nintendo with Splatoon 3, as we had some very impressive sales numbers and then also some very questionable gameplay clips that Nintendo had to deal with. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the SpawnWave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Meta Connect and Game Pass, as surprisingly, Game Pass is heading to the Quest VR lineup. We can see this posted over on GameSpot with an image from the Meta Connect event that gives us an idea as to how this will look, as we have Xbox Cloud Gaming heading to the Meta Quest store. The idea is you'll be able to stream it when using your Meta Quest 2 as an example, or their newest headset that we'll get to here soon in the show, but you'll have a massive 2D screen that they say is like their private movie theater, available at all times. I'm a little unsure as to why you would play this in VR if it's just still a 2D screen in front of you, when there's probably many other ways you could technically do cloud streaming, or if you're at home, because I don't think you're traveling necessarily with your headset. Like, you're not going to sit on the bus or something with your headset on. I mean, it's just another way, I guess, to experience Xbox Cloud Gaming, and Microsoft wants it as many places as they can. There's no word as to when this is going to appear on the Quest store, but here soon you should be able to play it as one big movie theater, streaming your Xbox games on your Meta Quest. Also, we had another look at Need for Speed Unbound with an entire gameplay clip that was shown off, and the more I see this game, the more excited I'm getting for it, because I'm sort of coming away with Need for Speed Underground vibes, sort of Most Wanted as well, right in that time period when the Xbox 360 first came out, and it's exciting stuff from what they're showing. Now, there was one question, because as they were showing off this gameplay, you got a lot of those cartoony effects mixed in there. It's kind of the aesthetic they're going and the stylized nature of it. You can turn those off. It was confirmed online by the Need for Speed Twitter account, and it looks like it's almost like equipable, similar to, say, if you want to upgrade your exhaust or intake or anything else with your car, you'll be doing the same thing, maybe with the smoke coming off of the wheels or those wings you seem to get when you go off of ramps. So you could turn it off completely or go absolutely wild with it. But again, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far with this. It's Need for Speed leaning more away from them trying to be a simulation racer and just going all out on the arcade racing side of things. So looking forward to this one in December. Oh, and we had our first DLC announced for Sonic Frontiers. This one will be free though, and we can see some of the images here for it. That's right. It's going to be a collaboration with Sonic Frontiers and Monster Hunter, which a bit surprising, although I guess they have kind of collaborated in the past in Monster Hunter Rise with some Sonic-themed apparel and stuff for your characters. But this will happen November 14th, so just a couple of days after its release date. They'll have 2 different costumes for Sonic and a meat grilling minigame that's inspired by Monster Hunter, which will power up Sonic. I mean, I like the idea of them doing some fun stuff like this with Sonic Frontiers, not necessarily taking it too seriously when it comes to it being canon or anything like that. And I wouldn't mind seeing them do more outside of the box collaborations like this. And I've become more interested in Sonic Frontiers since the first time I saw it to now, and a lot of that had to do with some of the early marketing versus what we are seeing currently. So again, another game that I'm looking forward to coming up in what's quickly become a very packed holiday season. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the PlayStation 5. For a while now, it's been pretty difficult to find one of these systems at retail price. You could definitely go on eBay or Amazon or even on Craigslist and find one for almost twice the value, just marked up to basically $1,000 minimum. However, that price has continued to fall over time. I was expecting it to spike around the holidays and especially around God of War Ragnarok's release, as that would bring a lot of hype back to the platform for this massive release and all of this. But But the one thing that Sony can do in order to combat the secondhand market with a lot of these scalpers is just putting more PlayStation 5 hardware out there. And in fact, it looks like they're preparing to do just that. We can see this posted up by David Gibson, who says lots of reports of improved PS5 supply in the past few months, but no data until now. Import data into the US confirms that Sony Interactive shipments in September, this being for the PS5, 400% up year over year. And I mean, you can see the chart here. David Gibson mostly pointing to God of War, the launch for that being a big reason for Sony to try to push as many PS5s out now, but also just for the holiday time period in that big quarter to push out a ton of systems and sell them left, right, and center. Maybe on store shelves. It'd be great to start seeing PS5s show up in places like Best Buy, Target, and Walmart right there on the store shelf. You can walk in, buy it, and walk out with it that day. What a world that would be, right? To go a little further, though, David did share some stats around the other systems. With the Xbox, we can see 89% up year over year. And with Nintendo, it was as pointed out here, a bit of a different situation, as it looks like it's down 59% year over year. However, it was pointed out that they are ramping up production and mostly using air freight. So this is just for the sea freight. So basically weight as is being loaded on to make its way over in the tugboat and everything across the sea. But obviously this is great news if you're someone who's looking to have a PS5 as a gift for the holidays, or you're just looking to get one so you can experience the best possible version of God of War Ragnarok, or I guess you could technically wait a year or two until it goes to PC. But me, I want to play God of War Ragnarok immediately when it releases in November. And the fact that we seem to be getting more and more PS5s in stock, I've noticed on the PlayStation Direct store that Horizon bundle is consistently popping up, ready to be checked out with. The thing with the PlayStation Direct store is they require you to sign in, and they're trying to fight a lot of the bots that try to check out with 10 PS5s at a time. It's at least a way to sort of mitigate that situation. And I will say the Horizon bundle at $550, I know it's more than $500 for just the PS5, but Horizon Forbidden West is a genuinely good game, so I think getting that for $50 on top of the PlayStation is a fine deal. So if you come across that, I recommend it. Otherwise, though, we'll see what happens with stock across the board, even outside of PlayStation Direct's website. Maybe we'll start seeing more and more Amazon drops, or Walmart or Target, or eventually in stores. But good news, like I said, for anyone looking to pick one out. If you've been kind of, I guess, browsing some of the secondhand market just to make sure you can guarantee yourself one, hold out a bit, because I'm starting to think you're going to be able to pick one up pretty easily online here soon. Next up, let's talk about the new headset that was revealed yesterday from Meta, this being their latest iteration in the virtual reality space. And I think there were some expectations that they would be showing off something maybe more gaming related in this sense, but certainly something that would be more all-in-one, just like we have with the Quest 2. This, however, appears to be something more in line with productivity and the workplace. We can see this over on the Oculus and Meta website, where they say Meta Quest 2 is the first entry in our new high-end line of devices, and it's packed with innovative features like high-res sensors for robust mixed reality experiences, crisp LCD displays for sharp visuals, and completely new and sleeker design, plus eye tracking and natural facial expressions to help your avatar reflect more naturally in VR. Basically, this headset is significantly more advanced than what we have right now with the Quest 2, and you would expect that because, well, the price. It's coming out October 25th. That's when it'll be available for purchase. You can actually start pre-ordering it now from what I've seen, but it's $1,500. That's right, $1,500. Initially, when the Quest 2 launched, it's gone up in price since then, but it was, $300? This is launching at 5 times the amount if you compare launches, and kind of tough, right, to put that over, as you definitely want to get this for the VR experience because the contrast is 37% better, any of that. No, this is being positioned very clearly, I might add, as something that will be more for collaboration and development in the virtual reality space. So it seems like this is something that maybe a business would buy 100 of these headsets for their workforce to use when they're collaborating in virtual meetings. And that seems to be kind of the picture that's being painted here by Meta. And I will admit, at least some of the stuff that looks pretty interesting about this has to do more so with the mixed reality as opposed to just the complete virtual reality side. You can see the entire room in front of you, and it has so many sensors on the headset that you can do things like draw a painting or put like an image up and just stick it to the wall in your room, and other people who have the headset will be able to see it. So you will still be able to see the real space in front of you, and then just sort of overlay things on top of it with that augmented reality setup. I also like the sleeker look of the headset that is becoming more and more like glasses or a visor that you wear. That's the biggest sticking point right now, I think, for VR, is the fact that we have these big boxy headsets that you're trying to convince people to put on for this next level experience. It's just getting them to put it on or put out money to try it is the hard part. Maybe when we get to a position where it's like glasses, or maybe way into the future, like contact lenses, then I think be able to talk a bit more, and it'll become more second nature to be part of this augmented reality, or I don't know, this metaverse space that Meta is truly trying to push right now. This though, this Oculus or this Meta Quest Pro, definitely geared more towards developers and collaborators in the workspace. So not necessarily on, I guess, the end consumer level with something like the Quest 2 that they continue to support here with different announcements. So that's more or less what I would look at with this Pro headset. Not necessarily something you may want to buy for yourself at home for entertainment purposes, but maybe if you're thinking about developing in the virtual reality space, might be something worth looking into. Otherwise, well, stick with the Quest 2, and maybe next year we'll have the next big thing announced for their Quest lineup, where we get that Quest 3 with maybe even some of the technology that's being displayed here with the Quest Pro. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo Splatoon 3 and a very weird situation that Nintendo had to deal with here. First, though, let's talk about some of the good news for Splatoon 3, and that has to do with the sales and just sheer dominance that Nintendo has displayed in Japan during its launch month. We can see this posted up over on gamesindustry.biz. Splatoon 3 sold 2.7 million box copies in 3 weeks, that being for the Japan monthly charts. We know Nintendo shared with us that its first, 3 or 4 days, they sold 3.45 million copies of Splatoon 3. That was digital and physical sales. But according to gamesindustry.biz, the Nintendo shooter accounted for 69% of all retail games sold, and it obviously had a massive effect on the Switch hardware sales. And it's not too surprising for Splatoon, because as much as people seem to forget, it is a massive franchise for Nintendo, especially in Japan. So much so that Nintendo had to deal with a very odd situation. It happens when you have a very popular intellectual property like Splatoon, to where you have some adult content find its way into the game through way of chroma key. We can see this from Oatmeal Dome. Says there was this thing called Splatoon Plus adult video trending on Japanese Twitter. Apparently VTubers were green screening adult content onto ink during stream. The challenge was not to get banned. Needless to say, Nintendo is not happy. There's a quote here we'll go over from Nintendo, but the idea is, yes, there is adult content being streamed behind the ink that was being laid down, which when you chroma key the color of your ink that you're putting down, it will basically make it transparent, and then you can see whatever video is playing in the background. So the more ink that they can put down, the more of the image you can see. And obviously, Nintendo, they're not having that, and we can see this over on their corporate account, which they mean business. When they are posting to that account, they say, notice from public relations, please see the guidelines below regarding the use of our copyrighted works on network services such as YouTube. Use that violates public order and morals, acts that intentionally mislead the rules of the game, acts that significantly damage the value of the game or characters and the world, and acts that encourage or take advantage of them will be deleted or legally enforced. We may take measures, including measures. That's an odd translation from Twitter, but you know what? It kind of fits here with how I'm seeing Nintendo's tone. They say, please be careful, which sort of reads like the Heisenberg tread lightly saying there. Yeah, this is Nintendo obviously not being very happy about that situation that arose from some very popular VTubers, and then obviously Splatoon being very popular in Japan, and that's mostly where this was happening and where it was trending. Nintendo doesn't really want a lot to do with adult content in their game behind the ink in Splatoon. And the one thing that I'll say is frustrating about this as a content creator or someone covering Nintendo along with the other companies is we just got done with Nintendo having their creator program where they would claim gameplay and stuff, mostly because they were working to protect their intellectual properties, and they felt like they had complete and utter ownership over all of it. Basically control. And then this kind of stuff happens, and I'm sure they're really thinking about that in their mind, like, should we have gone away from that, kind of second guessing it, because it was NCL or Nintendo in Japan that was really holding on to that idea of claiming all these different gameplay footages that people would post up. So hopefully people don't keep pressing their buttons, because it would be a shame for them to go back to that. But yeah, Nintendo just started copyright striking and removing all this stuff, kind of like you'd expect Nintendo to do. And in our last bit of news, let's talk a bit about some storage options that are currently on sale for the Amazon Prime Day promotions that they're running. I believe today is the last day for this. However, I was taking a look at some stuff that I was buying, which mostly were SD cards. I like to load up on SD cards when they have these sales going on, because it's like 35 to 50% off some of these cards. But I also thought a bit about the PlayStation 5, since we have NVMe drives we can pick up, and, well, we can see this. We'll start with the PS5 with the Western Digital Black 1TB SN850, currently marked down to $120. The 2TB is just over $200, but I do think that 1TB, it already has the heat sink and everything, and it's a pretty quick install. I think at $120 is a pretty good pickup there. It matches up with the specifications and requirements for the PS5, and since it's prime shipped, it gets to you pretty quick. Now, when it comes to the SD cards themselves, there are a couple, depending on what you're going to be using it for. As an example, if you're looking to upgrade your Switch hardware, I still think in terms of dollars per gigabytes, the 400 gigabyte SanDisk Ultra at $32. Do you remember when this first came out? I feel like I made videos about this way back when, and this thing was $200 something. Now it's $32, which is great. The 1TB also on sale, but I still think the 400 gigabyte, if you're working with something smaller like 128 gigabyte, might be a much easier pickup here, and it's a noticeable upgrade. If you're dealing with the SteamDeck, most people are looking to get something a little bit faster for it, and in that case, the SanDisk Extreme 512 gigabyte at $72 is a nice upgrade for that. But I'll leave links to these down below in the description if you wanted to check them out. Just thought I'd make sure you guys were aware of some of the sales going on here, and there are some other video game accessories and other things that are marked down for the Prime Day discounts that, as I mentioned, I believe ends later on tonight. So make sure you check that out and get any orders in that you wanted to if you're upgrading storage or other things. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday. We're asked, do you own a VR headset, like a PSVR or a Quest or a Vive, anything like that? 32% said yes, 17% said no, but they're planning to pick one up in the next year or so. 51% said no, I'm not interested in VR. So we're essentially 50-50 on this when it comes to interested in VR or not interested in VR, which is actually a better ratio than I was expecting. It kind of seems like we are trending in the direction of VR becoming more popular than not, and there are still some hurdles that have to be overcome, especially when it comes to the form factor for the VR headsets, but they have continued to slim down, and maybe we will get to that part where it's at least glasses. I think if you get there where it's like putting on a pair of sunglasses or something like that and it's not very intrusive, then you'll start to see more mainstream adoption around it. Or maybe it'll just be forced mainstream adoption because the office that you go to for your 9 to 5 has you put one of these Quest Pros on as soon as you get to your desk so you can collaborate rather than walk into the meeting room down the hall. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Joey. Says, you can find the Xbox Series S for under $250 now, sometimes with a free game. A streaming-only Xbox Series system would have to be $150 to $175 max in order to get people to buy it. Gotta be lower. This has to be an extremely aggressive Microsoft with the pricing. And I've been saying $100. If they can go under that, even better, $80 with a controller. I mean, at that point, why would you just buy the controller? It's, what, $20 more to just get this box that might be a remote play box that you can put in a spare bedroom or something and remote play your Series X, or it may plays Netflix or anything else there. It seems to me like this is something Microsoft will push out there to continue lowering the barrier of entry, and they're going to count this as an Xbox console sale. So I'm sure they'll also boost their overall numbers. And I do wonder what they would call this thing. We have a Series S, we have a Series X. They can't call it the Series E because you know there's going to be some marketing shenanigans in there at some point, and it'll pop up on social media with all those lined up. I was kind of thinking maybe the Xbox Series C for cloud. There's a lot of letters you can go through, so I guess let me know what you would name it, like a cloud streaming Xbox. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was the PlayStation 5 shipments heavily increasing? Are you still looking to pick one up, and were you planning to do so this holiday? And also, what about the Meta Quest Pro at $1,500? Are you interested in grabbing one of those? And then Splatoon 3, massive sales success in Japan, but what do you think about the situation Nintendo had to deal with? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.